God, this is a terrible Fez night. It's not smooth at all, is it? Because I really, really didn't want to do a Fez night tonight, but here I am. I'm doing one, and it's called Fez in the Mirror. So, back to Scott, back to Barfly Brooks. Right now, he's getting an unfair deal from Riley, getting called out, and I was going to say I wouldn't destroy my bones, because somebody made those for me. If there's one thing, as somebody that used to work with their hands and dabble in art as far as sculpting and photography and stuff, is that's a terrible thing to do, is to take something that somebody made with their hands and destroy it. And for me, there are times I felt like sending him the bones back or sending them off to somebody else that would enjoy them. I don't know, this NOE business, I'm just trying to stick to my Fez stuff. The NOE wasn't there for me when I needed them. So what's the point? Okay? What's the point? All right? And that's how I feel about that. And why should have I expected them to be for me? Because they are the network of evil. Stupid me. I'm such an idiot. Right? It's called the network of evil. How are they going to help you out or anything? They're just going to attack, right? Or cause you trouble. I don't know. Anyway, so I was talking with Scott on the phone today, and this is a depressing thing. I've got a lot more problems than this, but Scott was sending me episodes of Deadwood, and it was a show on HBO, and a couple years back or whatever. I forgot. Maybe it was a few years back. Excuse me. Whoa, that was a good one. So there was 3 seasons of it, and I watched the final episode of season 3 last night, and then there's no more. And that's a bummer because I was really, really enjoying it. And I didn't think I would get that into it, but mostly in the beginning, I was into it because they did such a good job of creating an authentic look, a very, very good look. And then once I started following the TV show, it became a really good study of society or civilization, because it started out this mining town. They discovered gold. It was formerly part of land that was supposed to belong to the Indians, and they weren't even really supposed to be there. Technically, according to the U.S. government, which they had just come out of the Civil War, and there was still some hard feelings over that. And so there's this completely lawless town. There's no sheriff. The only law are these warlords, I guess you could call them, like a saloon owner. Saloon owner is the main character, Swearingen, who basically runs a whorehouse, is involved in the opium trade in the town, and sells whiskey, among other things. And he has henchmen that if he'll go and have somebody killed. And then in comes another saloon owner, and here's this other. So it's almost like the beginnings of a kingdom, where you have 2 warlords, there are 2 castles, the 2 saloons. And meanwhile, people are trying, the peasants are coming in, the mining people, trading in their gold for whiskey and whores, and then eventually commerce begins. There's a hardware store, and then they start forming governments. They appoint a guy a mayor, because the reason why they have to do this is because of what the federal government is looking at what they're doing there. And if they can prove that they are sort of assembling a little bit of civilization, then there's talk about them being brought into like South Dakota or Montana. Anyway, well, the point is, though, I thought it was a really good analysis of the beginnings of civilization, beginnings of commerce, how capitalism works, because George Hearst comes in there later with Pure Money, and he's then his miners, he's bringing in these men from Cornwall, which is a part of England. They're Cornish. They don't speak English. They're speaking some sort of Gaelic, I suppose. I don't know that much about the Cornish, but I do know there was a Welsh and the Irish and the Scotch, and what else? The whatever was absorbed into Great Britain or later just broke away. But I have a feeling that Cornwall is in the southern area. This is where we get the word Cornish game hen, from Cornwall, Cornish. So these men, they're trying to organize. They're white men. The Chinese wouldn't even try that. They're bringing in Chinese workers, and there's Chinese prostitutes who are brought in and just treated terribly. There's also the issues of women's rights. The women in the town are mainly in the beginning just prostitutes, and they absolutely have no rights. And then later, a woman, her husband dies, and she inherits a really, not inherits, but is left a gold mine. But even though she's like the most richest person in the town, and that is until George Hirsch shows up, she's not invited to the town meetings. She has to use a man as a sort of to do things by proxy, because as a woman she can't do these things for herself, because of the position she's in, being a woman. And there's a line in the show later where the whores are talking, and they say like so and so she's owns a bank, the only bank in town, and they said, well, it's funny, if she didn't have a pussy, then they would have invited her to the meeting, which is a great line, I thought. Anyway, it's a great show. And then George Hirsch comes in, and he's bringing in the Pinkertons, which is basically his own private army, privatizing the military, and the workers are trying to organize. And what does he do? He kills these Cornish people because they have the wherewithal, to think that we're not being treated fairly, and we need to unionize. And that's how money and power operate. Capitalism, unfettered, doesn't give the worker a fair shake. And look at history. That's the way it was done. Now, I'm not anti-capitalist, but I think there's a system that needs to be a little bit of both. Okay? And the unions, given too much strong, I'm aware of the corruption when the unions got too strong. So there should be some sort of balance. Just the way our government works, checks and balances. You just can't it's like planting a garden. There's certain plants you don't want to plant. Like we let some mint grow wild in our yard, and it started like taking over the grass. It took over everything, There's some things have to be checked back. So there's a balance. You don't want nothing but mint or whatever, whatever crop, World can't survive on one type of crop. Oh, there I was. Was I voicing some sort of political opinion? I'm sorry, Mr. Brookman.